Howdy again, it's Mr. Pete, your interweb shop teacher, and this is episode number 72 of my This and That series. And I think you're going to enjoy this video. I have a lot of things to show you. It's going to be a long one as usual. And I want to tell you that many of you have been asking me when I'm going to start my rant on the post office. And I'm not going to make that a public video, but it is now available as an unlisted video and will remain unlisted, and there might be a point where I take it off. But if you want to see that 20-minute video where I really rail against the post office, and then I hit FedEx and brown trucks a little bit too, you look down into the description portion of this video and there will be a link to that unlisted video. Again, that may disappear at any given moment, so take advantage of it. If you like that type of thing, it is optional. Do not watch it if that type of thing offends you, because I do not want, nor will I tolerate any kind of opposition to it, because it's all the gospel truth, and you know it is, and many of you have had problems too. So don't watch that if you don't like it, that type of thing. Anyway, I'm going to begin here by, among many things, talking about a little review on how to change the jaws on a 3-jaw chuck. Just a little review, but I think you'll find it interesting, and that's a contribution by a viewer. So let's begin right now. Several months back I did a video, and it was entitled Short Subject Number 11 about changing jaws on a 3-jaw chuck. Well, Richard Kinch here sent me a note saying, here's a good way to do it, and let me show that to you. First of all, do not use these cheap, worthless little tan rubber bands which have a shelf life of 2 days. Use high quality ones. I split this one, and notice the way I got it looped around the jaws. Now, you can use your fingers too if you have 3 hands, but let me demonstrate this real quickly now. That's forward, closing them. Now reversing the drill, I will back it out all the way. Now watch each jaw as it comes to the end of the scroll. I'll go around one more time. Now this is jaw 1, this is slot 1. And as I reverse the drill, they will all catch in sequence, as long as the scroll has to come around to catch jaw 1 first. Thank you, Richard. Good idea. My friend Roger Taylor, the old shop teacher in California, sends me a lot of different things that are interesting, and thank you for your help, Roger, on my channel. He sent me this drill press vise that was made either in his class or a friend's, and he thought maybe it was a copy of the Peterson products, which is what this is. This is the original Peterson products casting pattern. So it is not that. You see there's differences, but it's very similar. But any small vise is similar, whether it's commercially made. You know, here's one that I made from castings a long time ago in a smaller size, but this is more like this one. So it is not a Peterson product. It's nicely done, even with steel jaws, and a little sloppy there, but the student did a nice job on it. Didn't have to cut the threads because they used threaded rods. So I thought that was interesting, and that's always kind of a constant project that I show here, or I should say topic. So thanks, Roger. Now a couple other things he sent as well. So I recently talked about stubby drill bits till I was blue in the face, and I can't believe how many people commented and say that they use stubby drill bits. So it's not something obscure at all. And in a video that maybe hasn't been released yet, I'm getting into tight quarters with my right angle Black & Decker drill here using a stubby bit, and that's handier than heck. But here's what Roger sent to me, and I'd never seen one of these, and he said that out there where he lives there's an awful lot of companies that make aircraft, you know, Lockheed and all those companies, Douglas, some of them are long gone, but they use probably air-powered off right-angle drills like this with very stubby drill bits to get into tight quarters. Now, this one has to be used in conjunction with a drill, which makes it kind of big and clumsy. And he said that this is probably more or less one that was made for a home use, not super quality. And thank you for this, Roger, but they even call it a tight fit drill kit. But over the years, I have many times run into these little drill bits, and they're threaded on the end. I believe it's quarter 28, and here's a whole bunch of them in different sizes, including very small ones. And I always wondered, what in the devil are these used for? And I think I probably threw any that I had away because I didn't know what they were. But the purpose is to fit into this type of tight quarters drill, because you don't need a chuck. They simply screw into place and allow you to get into that little tail section, or where the fuselage, where there's just absolutely no room. So that's neater than heck. It looks like it's never been used, and it came with a little wrench to tighten them up and all of that. So how awesome is that? And look at this compared to this one that I've had here for many years. It's meant probably for plumbers or mechanics, but so much larger. But by the time you put a drill bit on this, it's pretty big and clumsy. I think there was a handle here, but it's got a quality Jacobs chuck, and I have used it for other purposes. I'm not done. Well, here's a picture of it and how it is to be used. But I kind of get a kick out of the fact that there's a long adapter here, as you see right here, which kind of contradicts what it is meant for. But in the kit here, that part is missing for some reason. Probably went into this slot. Now, one more thing from Roger. Do you remember a recent video where I talked about stubby reamers as opposed to standard length chucking reamers? And there's the contrast of the two. Well, Roger Taylor saw that video and he said, well, that's nothing. And look at the picture that he sent me. And I suppose these two reamers are meant to be used in that little offset device that I just showed you, possibly in the aircraft industry. And look at this one. It's only about, well, it's a ½ inch long when you take the little threaded shank off of it. And both of these reamers have little steps on it, perhaps to get it started in a drilled hole and then size the hole accurately for rivets or whatever they're doing when they make phantom jets. Thanks, Roger. Do you remember many years ago when I talked about this Stanley bolt cutter that I have, and it's also a bender, but the beauty of it is you can cut off threaded bolts in the threaded holes here without damaging the thread, plus shear rod and so on within its capacity, and it has quite a mechanical advantage. But a viewer who wishes to remain anonymous sent me the original paperwork on that, which I've never seen, and they call it a Stanley Jobmaster bolt cutter. But what I was interested in the most was how to use it, not for an end cutter or for regular use or maintenance, but how to use the bending feature. And there it is, along with a written description in how to do it. So that's interesting, and thank you to the anonymous viewer. I've never seen this ever. He probably found it on the internet. Younger viewers might find this interesting, and I'm doing just a little case study here on the evolution of electric drills and how they were made. So this is a Milwaukee hole shooter made probably in the 50s or 60s. This was state-of-the-art, super high quality and expensive at the time. But notice that it's all metal. Die-cast aluminum, extremely rugged, but only 2 wires. It was not grounded the way we know things now. And then as time went by, here's a Black & Decker. This is kind of a hybrid where everything is plastic up to this point, and then they go in to die castings here. So it looks like they were making the transition. Plastic trigger, metal trigger, and this was a high quality drill as well, and this was called a hole gun. So these were commercial type of drills, and they're still in perfect condition. But I'm going through my electric tools, and I took about a dozen over to Habitat last week, and I'm going to send more. But then the next thing here came with the double insulated type of drills that are all plastic, but still had a quality Jacobs chuck on there that you could count on, not one of those horrible keyless chucks, which are $4 chucks. So with the double insulated here, we did not need a 3-wire plug, but it is polarized, if you'll note. Well, then what came next? Well, battery drills came next. And by the way, the worst battery drills I ever had were Makita's that had the 9-volt. They were worse than a hand drill. They made me very much dislike battery drills. I gave up on them for years. Anyway, got off the subject there. But now, modern cordless drill, you all know this. There's nothing new here. But what I don't like about these is the fact that this one isn't too gaudy, but they basically designed them after tennis shoes, and so that they have eye appeal in the box stores, because possibly they're gift items. But the lithium batteries are too good to be true compared to the old ones. However, they still put that 10-cent chuck on there, which is bordering on worthless in my opinion, but I think some of you will disagree, because it was always a pain in the neck to use a chuck key on these, and often you lost the chuck, but they did provide this type of device on most drills at that time. So alright, that's enough on that, because these are going to Goodwill. Okay, it's lunchtime, so I'm going to break for that. Now I'm going to call Kentucky Fried Chicken. I have to admit, I do like KFC chicken, and I like mine extra crispy and almost to the point where it is burnt. So I usually give them a call ahead of time, because that is a special order, and then I go down there and pick it up. But alright, see you in a few minutes. Well, I'm back again, and I'm still hungry as heck, because I'm going to cut to a few pictures and a short clip here of what I found at KFC. And I hope this wasn't my fault, but the darn place burned to the ground because I asked for extra crispy. They burnt the chicken. You have heard me rant endlessly over the years how many vices, probably half of them, are mounted incorrectly, too far inboard, and when you do that, you cannot hold long rod like this vertically if you wanted a thread on the end. So right now this one is correct because there's plenty of space here. But there's still a problem with this. If you have a real fat piece of work, even bigger than this, which is about 2 inches in diameter, and you want to hold it vertically, you don't have quite enough grip here, you see. As a matter of fact, this will pull out, see? So what is the fix for that? I have to confess, I've never seen one of these vices in the flesh, but I have seen pictures before, and someone sent me an email and reminded me of this. But over in Australia, where they're pretty darn smart, a company called Dawn, since 1917, built these beautiful engineer's offset vices. I think they're extremely expensive, but it's almost like somebody hit this with a huge hammer and parallelogrammed the vise off to the side, but that allows you to hold large diameters vertically. Isn't that cool? When available, I hope you all watch my long series where I take my 14-inch Delta wood cutting saw and convert it into a metal cutting saw using the wonderful Craftsman speed reducer, and there's a bunch of videos on that as well. I'm out in the garage now, but do you remember several months ago when Paul St. Marie gave me 4 or 5 different Hubbell twist lock type 3-phase connectors at considerable expense? These are very expensive, but take a look at what I did with them. So down on the floor below the South Bend milling machine, there in white is my phase converter, and you can see the two sets of twist lock three-phase connectors that I have wired up to the phase converter, where I can very quickly disconnect these two machines, and the other one right next to it is the closing horizontal mill. So that's going to make it so much easier for me to move things around if I need to, or just cut the power. See how nicely and easily these disconnect and safely? Same thing with this one. Ready to use. I know I whine and complain a lot, but I've earned it. I'm a 79-year-old curmudgeon. But this cart here, it's a little hydraulic cart which you can pump up and down, and I rather like it, but it came from the big freight store on the bay, and I bought it used, but I probably have used it, only a few minutes over the years, and I went to use it the other day and it wouldn't roll right, and it went to thumpa, thumpa, thumpa. Well, let's take a look what's wrong. I know you can't see it there, but the tire broke off on that one wheel. Let me zoom in. Well, I already did zoom in. Let me turn it over. The funny thing is, this cart is in pretty intricate, amazing, heavy-duty construction, except for that wheel. But I guess over in China, they're still in the dark ages in regards to things like that. Look at this. It's just plain brittle, and wouldn't you actually call that inexcusable? Now that means the other ones will fail very soon. When I was at Arnfest a few weeks ago, a man gave me this very intricate, amazing device. I'm going to talk more about it in my What Is It series. Extremely well made, probably cost thousands of dollars, so we'll see if anybody can identify that. I covered up the trademark. Also to be released soon is the footage that Ellie Price made and sent to me in regards to these two beautiful little angle plates that he precision ground to inspection grade, and he even jeweled the top, painted them hammer tone, and proofed them to make sure they truly are accurate. This is the South Bend version. Remember, I bought this also at Arnfest, and it's a Central brand. And I said, well, what's it for? Because it's kind of odd here that it runs from 1.5 to 2.5, but several people identified it. It is to be used on crankshafts when they're grinding the crankshafts in a motor shop. And the interesting thing is there were several comments, but also there was a comment by an engineer from Central. So I thought that was neat. Well, then the next thing on this, I thought, well, I'll have to reset it because on the thimble here, or the barrel rather, the graduations and the zero line are way offside. So I thought, well, I got to rotate this, but I didn't see a good way to do that. But what somebody told me is the purpose of that is the man's working on a grinder and he's in a hurry and he's holding it with his left hand, and then he can bring this up and, got to put my glasses down, and read it. I don't know if I get that to focus it, without bringing it around and changing the position and all of that. So I believe that is correct, what I just told you. If it is not, let me know, and I'm sure you will. But that's a pretty neat micrometer. As I told you before, these Central tools were extremely high quality, but they were aimed at the automotive market. About a month ago, my good friend Clark Easterling visited me here at my house, and along with his dog and his wife. Dollar is the dog, I think you know, and they stayed overnight with us, and he was on his way to Michigan and then Minnesota before he went back to Mississippi delivering castings. So he made several videos on that. Be sure and watch them. I'll put the link in the description if I remember, or at the bottom of the screen. Be sure and watch Windy Hill Foundry for details on those. But while he was in my driveway, we looked in the back of his van, and he showed me the castings in question, and there's just a short clip on that and a few still pictures. And then still upcoming, I haven't released it yet, is about a 30-minute interview or discussion that Clark and I had in my garage. So watch for that video, and I hope you enjoy that and everything that was in this video. So enjoy. Hello again. I'm here with Clark Easterling.
And Dollar.
And Dollar. Yeah. He's sitting there pretty calm, but Clark came clear up from Mississippi today, and he's headed to Michigan first.
Yeah, Michigan first, and then we're going to Wisconsin to see a friend over there, and then from there we're going to the Streetcar Museum in Minneapolis, I believe.
In Minneapolis.
And then we're going from there to Iowa. I got to drop Josie off there, and I'm going to go home and party because I'm going to have the place to myself. Don't tell her that.
Well, hope she doesn't watch the video.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what you got here now.
All right, so these two brackets go on a, oh goodness, I wish I knew. I knew the year and the model and the name of the streetcar, but these are the harps, they call them, that hold the wheel that rides along the power line that gives the streetcar the juice to go. And it was a pretty nice pattern, very well done. The core prints would be sticking out here, and if you go to my Instagram page, I show all that. I show how we were molding this up on the failures, and these are finally the first two successes, and we finished those up late last night before we headed up.
Wow.
And then
you worked half the night, didn't you?
Yeah, yep, all the night. And then I didn't get any sleep yet, so it's I'm gonna make up for it tonight.
What else you got in that blue crate?
Well, the blue crate has hinges that we're taking to Michigan to the Port Austin Reef Lighthouse, and we have two different kind of hinges. That's the bigger one, and
that's manganese bronze.
Manganese bronze.
And there's the other one.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, the manganese bronze that I'm using for this came from rudders that a buddy of Adam Booth's gave me down in Pensacola.
Oh, rudders off of a boat.
Yeah.
Not propeller. Rudder.
Right. I'd love to get a propeller too, but who can be picky, right?
Okay, so that's what we got to show you here, and we're going to have a little conversation later on tape as well, and I hope you enjoy that.
Well, I got to tell you guys, anytime I get to come up here and see Lyle, I really enjoy our visit. He's a very genuine person, and I always leave feeling really good about who I know.
Thank you. I'll give you $5 for saying that.
All right. 10, and I'll throw in some better stuff, but yeah, I think I have a lot of respect for Mr. Pete, and I've learned a lot watching his videos myself, and I'll give you a good example. The windlass. Never knew what a windlass was in my life until I watched that video, and I was so intrigued with that, I started playing around with models I wasted a week. Instead of doing other things.
My fault you wasted a week.
Yeah, I wasted a week doing research on a windlass. So
yeah, that's a really old video.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, Mr. Pete's got some very valuable information out there, and if you have never subscribed, if you've never watched any of his videos, if you're new to his channel, I strongly recommend that you go through his whole library and see what he's got in there. He's got some hidden gems.
That's 12 or 1,300 videos. That'll take them a long time.
Yeah. Hopefully they can do a quick search.
Keep them out of
certain
keep them out of trouble though.
Yeah. And if you're familiar with a streetcar, you see these power lines overhead that they run off a wheel or a pulley. Well, the pulley sets in here, the sieve. What's the correct term for that, Mr. Pete? Would it be a trolley wheel?
I don't know the correct term. That's actually before my time.
Yeah.
And lastly, but not least, let me tell you about a very pleasant experience that I had about 3 weeks ago. Now, I've been retired for 23 or 24 years already, and I've lost track of a lot of my colleagues. Well, matter of fact, a lot of them have died. I went to a funeral last week for a friend of mine that taught English. But a young teacher, he was young when I retired, but now he's getting ready to retire, contacted me and he said, can you talk to my class? And he's got a special class, there it is, CEO. And I said, well, what am I going to talk to him about? And he said, well, it's all about entrepreneurial experiences that I have. Well, I'm a teacher. And he said, well, what about all the different things that you did over the years? And yes, I guess to some extent I was not that successful, but I was an entrepreneur because I invested my own money and I had several different businesses that allowed me to, were profitable enough where I could retire a little bit early. So it was a small class, 6 or 8 kids, and they came at 7:30 in the morning. I had donuts and milk for them. They were very well dressed, extremely pleasant and well behaved, and I'm going to make sure that the teacher, hello Kirk, watches this. Maybe he'll show this little clip to his students too. And they are doing this around town with other businesses, not just mine. But it was very pleasant. So he said, can you talk for about 90 minutes? I said, well, shoot, I got about 10 minutes worth. Well, all of a sudden at about 9:15, he said, hey, we got to go. I had been talking for over 90 minutes and the time went just like that. Now, I don't know if the kids liked it or if they're still half asleep, but they sure seemed to be attentive. And I'm going to show you now just a couple pictures that he took while I was talking. And it was so pleasant. It was like returning to my old job. You know, I got chills now just talking about it. It was wonderful. So thank you to you kids. That were in that class. Some of them stayed over, and 2 of the boys came down here into the shop, right where I'm sitting right now, and wanted to see what I was doing down there. So it was really heartwarming, you know, that they asked me that, and that the class was so wonderful and so pleasant. It just gives you new faith in teenagers, for those of you that think you've lost faith in young people. This was awesome. So thank you to those kids. Hi out there if you're watching, and again to Mr. Melody. So, well, that concludes this incredibly long video. Now, I, from time to time, have been putting still pictures at the end. Does anyone watch? So let me know, because it takes extra time and effort to do that, and if people aren't going to watch, I'm going to kind of discontinue doing that, although there'll be just a couple pictures here at the end. But now watch right now for the pictures of some of the students and me. We were kind of careful not to take too many pictures of students. I'm not sure if you're supposed to do that or not, you know, although I'm on my own premises here, but, you know, you got to watch out for minors and in regards to what we do here on YouTube. Thank you for being a loyal viewer and watching this all the way through. I really love doing this, and I'll see you next time. And you know, he must be teaching these kids right, because they even sent me a thank you note. Isn't that sweet? You know, I'm easily discouraged, and sometimes the only comment I'll get to a long video that took me 3 days to make, and I put my heart into it, and the only comment is, why don't you step on that cricket? Now, I know those are trolls saying that, but I have caught hundreds of crickets. But, you know, I have a damp, wet basement, and this house was built by Laurel and Hardy after they were on a 3-day drunk. So this is the results. But these sticky traps are pretty effective, and I have about 6 of them in use at all times.